and not be killed in the womb and that kind of thing. So most people have a minimum of 8% of Metatronic distortion in the DNA just to get on the planet. So it's not as if, you know, some people are born totally impeccable and others are born totally saturated. Some people are born with very high percentages of Metatronic saturation. Some people are actually born as full-on FATaLE because in the last lifetime, the lifetime directly before, they have, you know, encountered where they were saturated to a point where it flipped their entire template over into reversal and allowed for a FATaLE to fully possess the body, and that FATaLE would then take on the next incarnation. And there'd be about 2% of the individual left when the incarnation started, and progressively, as the FATaLE activated the gene code, it would progressively absorb the rest of that identity. There are some people who have gone through that, and that's why the beloveds refer to it as an affliction, because you don't find someone who's an embodied FATaLE that didn't start out as an embodied Christic. So it is literally the ones with the higher Christic codes that became the targets for the FATaLE. And so there's a compassion factor, even though FATaLE have a really interesting dilemma within themselves, because it's like a twisted thinking pattern that they tend to perceive everything as victimizing them. And they use that as an excuse to victimize others. And they perceive themselves as being victimized even if they're not being victimized. And then they will go out and lash out or do things that they feel they have to do and justify what they're doing, but like literally targeting other beings and, you know, that are not having that problem because they are being run on several levels. FATaLE don't have the luxury of integrating full consciousness. You'll have the overseer consciousness level that doesn't embody, that runs the part down here around like a puppet or a muppet. And yeah, seriously, where you have the part down here struggling to understand itself and what it is, you have it acting in a dual nature. Sometimes it remembers part of what it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then you have the larger FATaLE consciousness structure that kind of hangs out in overshadow and almost like directs its persona down here as if it were a piece in a chess game on a chessboard down here. So there are problems with the FATaLE that it is very difficult if you happen to be one, if you were, you know, born one or became saturated by one in this lifetime, because it's almost like you'd be the last to know, because you're not being allowed to see the strategies behind some of the behaviors or emotions that are coming through you. And it is a challenge. So there's a lot of compassion for people that have FATaLE affliction. With the activations that are coming through now, they are very, I mean, at times we have had to call out where FATaLE issues are getting to the point where they're going to spread and affect other people. And yes, access to more power to affect other people will be blocked by the Christics if that is seen to occur. And we will try to help the FATaLE if they want assistance, but we're not going to force it on them. Now, assistance for FATaLE and Christics alike comes in the form of the protection fields that are being generated through the Al-Hum-Bhra host. This is the enough is enough point in the cosmic drama where divine will does step in and overrides the free will gone amok, basically. And divine will is simply that was set in motion with original first creation, is part of the Chris code, where if things get so out of balance, there will be energetic reactions that bring it back into balance. And that is how eternal life circulation continues. So nothing is allowed to take free will so far that it's allowed to destroy the eternal formula that allows for eternal life creation. And that's the point we're at. So for FATaLE and for Christics alike, when the what do they call it? The roaring love light song of God Source First Eternal, that is the Al-Hum-Bhra. And there's a rumble to it, actually, when I hear it, it's like the Al-Hum-Bhra, right? It's like, whoa, the roaring light sound, right? Yeah, they're very, very special frequencies, and they're frequencies of consciousness as well. These are consciousness beyond the manifestation form, but they can, you know, choose to manifest in any form. It is the highest level of Adashi, adept, Christ star identity that, you know, that exists. And these are eternal fields of consciousness. They're always there. And we're always immersed within the structures that they're always part of, but that doesn't mean we're always aware of them or that they can always come into a system. A system actually has to get to the point where that rebalancing has to be done before those frequencies can be fully opened into, excuse me, into a reality field, because those frequencies are so strong that they would overwhelm, say, a system that still had a percentage of Christic potential, so it's okay, it's not going into fall. That's not the time to open the Al-Hum-Bhra gates, because they'll just come through and reset everything. And like if it was doing okay, it was getting there, right? But when reset happens, when the whole system is going into fall, and reset has to happen, or the CRISP balance would be annihilated, and that is just not allowed in the original CRISP code. So the Al-Hum-Bhra consciousness is quite amazing. They refer to themselves as the Al-Hum-Bhra, well, the councils, plural, of 48, and that has to do with structures that we'll see tomorrow, in where we see where the Cosmina is in relation to Cosmea and those kind of things, and these structures of councils of 48 and what they refer to. All right, so we'll see more of the structure tomorrow. But when the Al-Hum-Bhra consciousness begins to come in, they try to explain themselves. They said our official title is the Al-Hum-Bhra Magistral, meaning like magistrates council, where they are the law keepers. And that is the keepers of the CRISP code law, the laws of the CRISP code. When it gets out of balance, they do step in and say, okay, and this is how it's going to be. There isn't negotiation with these people.